This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Bruschi, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
Oh, we have a lot to go over today. Adelsons, of course, we're going to dive into that. This is a day Donna is going to decide whether or not to testify. We'll talk about that. We'll also take a look at some testimony from a jailhouse snitch that says she almost got a grand piano out of Donna. You know, it's a little bartering that, you don't expect to do in prison, but, Donna's got the goods. So we'll do that. We'll take a look at Donna's best friend's testimony on the stand, which I don't know that it did a whole lot for Donna, but we'll talk about that. Also going to be talking with Jennifer Coffindaffer today about Harvey and Wendy Adelson. What sort of future might be held for them after Donna is found guilty or innocent, in the far chance that happens. And then Siobhan Scott's going to be joining us, psychotherapist and author, and we're going to go into the world of family enmeshment, which essentially is the Adelson family. Is it good? Is it bad? Why do so many people keep coming back for more? We're going to talk about all that in the second hour of the program. But be sure to press subscribe wherever you're listening to us or watching us so you don't miss us every day. And in the comments section, be sure to let us know your thoughts, your questions, and we'll try to get to them throughout the program today. But first, we're going to start with some new breaking news. Bryan Kohberger, there's a new detail that has come out that's not going to be just floating away from our radar. It's not about the crime itself, but what was happening in his private conversations right after. And when you hear it, you can't really help but ask what exactly was going on here. So, the night after the murders, Bryan's mother, they're talking, as they have been. As you know, Bryan Kohberger and mom are pretty tight. They were talking the morning of the murders, right after, for several hours. And then throughout the day later, he was on the phone with her constantly while he was in jail. But this is an interesting one. The night after the murders, Bryan's mother sent him a news article. It was a link, not just any article. And I don't know how odd this is. That's why I'm curious to get everyone's reaction on it. This one spelled out how Xana Kernodle had bruises all over her body and how she had fought back against the attacker. That's what was being alleged in that article. Think about this for a second. Mom sending her son a link to the story about the brutal murder may be normal. I can kind of understand that. But does it land a little differently while the two of them are already on the phone together? Obviously, she probably doesn't know that, Lil Bry is the one behind it. But does it strike you as normal? Let's just start there in casual conversation that mom would be sending Bryan, links to this horrible crime. It did happen where he's at. So is it strange on that level? Let's start there.
Well, it's odd. Now, I say that as we have an audience of people who love true crime.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It has to do with the area that he was in. It was a huge news story. So yeah, that could make sense. But then if you turn it on its side and go, wait a minute, that's some really unusual banter between a mom and a son, I think.
Well, it depends, I guess, on the relationship. What's unusual? If you and your mom talk about true, if you talk about it,
mother, and if they had a relationship.
If you're into that topic, what's weird about talking about that topic? Yeah, her son turned out to be the killer, but I don't see it as being that out there. For example, Devil's Den, that occurred here, where the monster went into the woods and killed the husband and wife recently, and we were covering that quite heavily. Before they found the killer, my mom's, sending me, articles about it and stuff, and I'm letting her know, sending her what I'm reporting about it. So, we talk about those sort of things somewhat. We don't dive into every case. If I said Karen Reed, you'd probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But I don't know. From that dynamic, I don't know that it's that weird. But the topics I talk about sometimes with my mom and my parents, I know are kind of odd.
Yeah, but look at what you do for a living. You are the exception. Yeah. I mean, well, but he's a criminology student. So again,
is it odd? I don't know. I mean, look, I remember when I was a kid going into the radio station and telling Todd some of the conversations I had with my mom, and Todd would be like,
huh? Wait, what's going on there?
And in true Todd fashion, I remember none of that. So
no, you blocked it out is what happened.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah. I don't know how odd that is on the surface, but that's gotta be a weird one to have to try and, comb through all this time later. Yeah. You got to be looking at everything that he said to you on those phone calls and going, what does it mean? What was he saying? I mean, it gets even stranger right after that, their conversation, her texts the next morning to him. And this is interesting. And this is all from some of the criminologists and some of the folks who were digging into the Cellbrite data. And this is what they were telling Ashley last night on Banfield on News Nation, that her messages veer into coffee beans, a line about a sweet girl working at a coffee shop, totally disconnected from the weight of what they had just been talking about. It does appear that there might be some pieces to this conversation that are missing. As we know, he was deleting things, but what we do have is her communication to him, not necessarily his out or what they had spoken of. So, I mean, it kind of leans a little bit towards, well, it looks like they had been having some sort of conversation about some girl he thought maybe was cute that worked at the coffee shop.
Well, and remember, we've talked about the barista who had a close run-in with him.
Yep.
So what part of that conversation's missing here, where he's obsessing over this woman who knows nothing about him?
Yeah. And he's talking to mom about her.
Yeah. And you don't talk to mom about somebody unless things are cooking, I guess,
Or
I wouldn't think, but we don't know the dynamic either.
Yeah, what's odd about it is that both the topics, the bruises all over the victim's body, okay, that is something that, from my understanding, he might really enjoy talking about because of what he's into. I mean, we know that about him. Yeah. And then the coffee part of it and the barista and all that, it's just, if you just look at it by itself, if you didn't know everything that went down in that situation, you'd be like, just conversation, little weird, but this was like, it was almost feeding him to me.
He seems to have very few modes of what he talks about and what he goes on. I mean, it's interesting as we learn more about him. He enjoys talking about knives and knife sheaths, as we know that he loved, like, just randomly talking to the woman at the hotel about that in the hallway. He likes to talk about the coffee and the girl at the coffee shop. It's very narrow obsessions that he goes on, which goes with the autism. That's a lot of that sort of thinking. You do get more narrowly focused on things, but he seems to have no way of functioning outside of it. Like, he needs somebody to trip him up and go, okay, Bryan, next thing, next step, let's keep moving here. Because he really gets onto that. I'd be really curious. I'd love to know from that mom, what was that conversation like about the bruising, and I hate gory details. I do not like talking about them. We don't show the pictures. We don't do any of that shit because I don't think it adds to the story. But what I am curious about is that conversation. Was he excited? Did that perk Bryan up to sit there and talk about, well, I think this might have happened or that might have happened? The way that Papa Roger character came out online and said, well, I think this, and seemed to have knowledge beyond what was in the current publishings of the moment. If mom could look back and say, well, how did he know that?
Well, but don't forget too, and I'm not defending Bryan Kohberger. Please don't ever put me in that category. But being a criminology student, this is his arena. This is where he thrives. This is where, he's studying this. So I remember in the days of, when I went into radio, everything music was talked about with me, like, oh, we should talk to her about that. Or when I went into veterinary medicine, like, oh, here's this really weird case that, was in the paper for some reason. Or so people gravitate toward those topics. Maybe that was just a innocuous. Hey,
he's into that.
Yeah.
He's going to school for that. Let's talk about something that maybe interests him.
And again, you brought up the autism. I've been doing some reading about Temple Grandin. Very, very amazing human being. But she talks about how people on the spectrum, their thoughts aren't linear. They're just very segmented and all over the place. And to people who are not on the spectrum, it looks very odd, incredibly odd. But to them, that's a normal. Yeah. So from our perspective, not being on the spectrum, it's really disconcerting to see this journey that they take to get through a topic.
Well, especially when the topics are very off, when they're
exactly.
That's
If he were not a criminology student and he went into great detail about, what happened at this crime and really was digging into the details, I would be very alarmed. But he has that degree. So to me, it's like, it's just another day at the office. What does it say though about like that his mom is the one he's turning to constantly after these horrific things? He literally just killed 4 people, and now he's if you read the tea leaves, he's talking about the cute girl at the coffee shop, which we now know he had some sort of interaction with that made her uncomfortable. It makes you wonder, he's already, the fact that he's able to sit there and think about another human being in any sort of like, maybe I'll date her sort of way after just murdering 4 people. It makes you wonder. I wonder how much in code he spoke to his mom. I wonder how much, gazing at the stars meant something else other than it seems to mean. If he was speaking in certain ways of, I got a crush on this girl, or I like this girl, is more like I'm going to stalk her type. And I've been staring at her outside her window, Mom. She likes Pantene Pro V. Do you like Pantene Pro V, Mom? I want to buy it. I want to smell it. That sort of creepiness. Maybe he didn't have the capability. It sounds like I'm defending Coburger. Stop me. I'm not.
We know you're a pro burger.
No, I'm not. I'm honest to God, I'm not. But I'm, again, doing more reading on this. He does not connect with other people on an emotional level. He does not know how. And not that he couldn't learn, but I think it's really difficult. And I just don't think he had the fostering environment for that to occur. So he doesn't relate to people. He makes people feel very uncomfortable with the interactions. And I just don't think he has a lot of friends. So Mom's always going to be there.
He doesn't know how to navigate people.
Right.
That's his thing. That's a very hard thing with autism too, because you don't naturally know how to do it. So it's like a lot of learned type behavior, but he doesn't seem to value that lesson. And if he doesn't value that lesson, he just continues to hit his head against a brick wall, never going, maybe that's a lesson I should pick up on because it might help me get from point A to point B. But he's always just like hitting up against the wall. I don't know why nobody wants to talk. Like, well, that's you. Another interesting piece of that reporting about those letters, or beyond the reporting that he was talking about with his mom and that letter that she sent to him. He sent some letters to Washington State University around that same time. His teaching assistantship was in jeopardy. He responded not with one, but 2 very different letters. The first letter was very groveling. He begged to keep his position, stressed how much he needed the insurance, emphasized his GPA and his dedication. It was like a pleading type letter. Please keep me. Then a little bit later, sends another one. That one flipped. And it went after a female professor directly in it. It laid out why she was wrong and he was right. No humility, just pure arrogance in that one. Like Jekyll and Hyde, depending on who he knew was going to be looking at this letter. And specifically, We see his anger towards a female erupting again. It's the same personality that we've heard described by his colleagues. I mean, he's late to classes with female professors, never the male ones. He's rating female students horribly, ignoring the men, dismissing women, but showing deference when he wanted something. And his best buddy appears to be a woman. His mom, his attorneys, all female. What the hell does that say about Bryan Kohberger?
I wonder if he saw them as female, though. I wonder if he was able to strip out their gender, that other women that he didn't need or know, they were women, but the ones that were close to him or that he desperately needed, like a professor, like a mom, they weren't women to him. Does that make sense?
Like he just categorizes everyone differently. But so
Yes.
the people who are below him in his mind, below in intelligence, if that's how he scales everything, they're women.
Yes.
But if there's an intelligent woman next to him,
She's different.
she's something else, or I don't.
Again, it's putting things into those compartments that he needs to be able to relate to them because it's so uncomfortable.
You open this door, he respects him. He loves his mom. He trusts his mom. He trusts these attorneys. And shut that one. Open this door over here, and they're pieces of meat and can't be trusted. And it's pulling the doors back in all these different bizarre ways that Coburger does.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.